Hello, YouTube land. This is Brent and Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Now, this story we have coming up is from Linda, and she's going to share some Dogman encounters and a few Bigfoot encounters, and then one other encounter that's really interesting at the end. Now, these Dogman encounters are a little bit different because they are maybe Skinwalker type and urban. So if you think you would never see a dogman in the city, you might be wrong. But then again, this could be a skinwalker type situation, but you make your mind up. If anyone out there has a story that they want to share of Bigfoot, dogman, any kind of cryptid or supernatural, or any type of story you think is interesting and would make a good show, you can contact me at brentandson@gmail.com. And let's just go to Linda and let her tell these interesting stories. All right, Linda, I appreciate you coming on today. If you would, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about you and where you live, and then give us your story, please.
Okay. My name is Linda, and I was born and raised in southern part by Four Corners all my life. But I've passed about 11 years. I've moved to California, which I'm currently living. But the stories that I'm going to tell you about is about my family members and some few friends that told me. I personally have not encountered anything, like Dogman or Bigfoot or anything like that. But when they told me the stories, they sound so believable that I think that I do believe what they said when they told me the encounters.
Right. Well, yeah. When they're your family, you know them. My sister told me an encounter one time, and I believed her that when I was young.
Yeah. I believe my family members. The other people, I'm not sure because I don't know them as long. Because those ones, family members, you known them all your life,
Right.
And how they're their characters and stuff like that,
Yeah. Well, most of the time, though, who's gonna make up a story to make themselves look crazy, So most of the Dogman and Bigfoot stories that I hear, I believe most of them. There might be some attention seekers, but typically no one's going to want to make themselves look crazy because it is a crazy topic. I mean, who would have thought that there's such a thing as Dogman or even Bigfoot in some cases? So I want to hear your stories, and I know the audience does.
Yeah. Okay. I have 4 Dogman stories.
All right.
And to go back, I am Native American from the Navajo Nation, and so they call it over there. They call it Skinwalker.
Right.
But from what they described to me when I talked to them about it, it sounds like a dogman. I've never encountered a Skinwalker, or a dogman, so I can't tell you what one way or the other. The only way I can guess what they are is by listening to people, just like yourself and other internet, the way they described their situation and their encounters.
Okay.
And that's how I'm going to go by that.
Right.
Okay. My first story is that happened to my sister, and she was about 11, 10-ish, and we lived in this foster family for it's a house that's right on the corner, and right in front of the house is a huge window. There's like nothing, we have a huge ruffled curtains covering the window, but then it's like like the old times. Then they have that little tiny row of on the top of that a little ruffled up curtains with maybe about 3-inch gap, and we had 2 we call it bunk beds, and my sister was sleeping on one of them, and I was sleeping on the bottom on one of them, and our foot would be by the window, and our head would be way back, away from the window. That's how we slept. But anyway, my sister said that she woke up for some reason. She just came out of her sleep and just woke up. And then she's trying to get, I don't know, this uncomfortable feeling of, she wasn't sure. But as she was trying to, get comfortable again, and then she looked out the window, there's a street lamp right across by the neighbors, right on that corner is a street lamp, and you can see, she said she looked over there and she saw something standing there. And it had red eyes, glowing red eyes, and she just stared at it. And then as she was staring at it, she said somehow it seems like it tuned into her. Like, she looked over there and it said, how could this thing see me? Because I'm in the dark, everything's shut off. But for some reason, this thing knew it was looking at her. Looking at that creature.
Wow.
So, so she kept looking at it and looking at it, and then the next thing you know is like focused on her, and it started to walk across from the street lamp, crossing the street, and then started heading towards onto our front lawn.
Wow.
And it got really close, and then she just didn't know what to do. She had her blanket and she started like pushing it up, but she couldn't stop looking at it. She just wanted to know what it was going to do or what's going to,
Right.
But then all of a sudden something got the attention of that Dogman figure,
Right.
and he looked to his left because remember I lived on the corner, so he looked to his left, and then it just kind of and it just turned around, got on all fours, and just ran off towards to that same street lamp light was at, and then just disappeared into the dark. And then next second later, you see a car go by.
Wow.
And then she was just like, I didn't know this happened until maybe like a few days later. Right. She goes, I got to tell you something that happened a few nights ago. And I said, okay, because I was thinking, what was going on, because I thought maybe she was having like problems at school or something like that, like bullies or something.
Right.
And I said, okay, go ahead, tell me what happened. She said that, when she told me, she said that when she saw something that night, she told me that it looked like a werewolf. And I said, what? But then at the same time, I said, and then she goes, but then she said that maybe you're a skinwalker. And I said, well, describe it. And she said that when it's standing there and it was kind of looking around, it had a dog head, the snout and everything, the pointed ears, because it was like looking around, because you could see like the side angle, the front angle, and it was just kind of looking around. And so, and it says it was, I don't know if he was like, had his hand on the, the light pole or whatever, but she didn't see the one hand. But then, and she said, and then as soon as it tuned into her, it just kind of focused right at her. Right. And then it started walking. She didn't notice the legs at first, but she was just so focused on the eyes that everything else was just like, and she just didn't know what to do. And she goes, I think it's a skinwalker. That's what she kept saying, is this a skinwalker? And she didn't know what to do. But anyway, as it came up closer, and then when it turned around, then she noticed it had, just like a dog, the dog leg, the canine legs, right. And got on all fours and just took off, and it was just gone. Wow. That was her encounter, and that's what she told me.
Yeah.
And then she said it was dark. It was dark in color. She wasn't know if it was like dark, like dark brown or black, but it was dark in color.
Right. Yeah. I've heard many times where the thing looked at the person and the person knew it was looking into them, kind of thing. It was almost a spiritual experience. I remember one lady I had on from the UK, she said that it looked into my soul. That's the way it felt when you just knew it was looking at you, into your eyes, knew you was there, and and she was inside the house also looking out the window, and she was a young girl at the time, and she said I mean, it was traumatizing to her. She thought it looked into her soul. It was unbelievable. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
believe your friend's story. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. And then you got to remember that this happened inside the town. It's a small town. It's about like 4,000, but it was inside. I mean, we live like maybe about 5 blocks from downtown area. You know, where the police station, the post office, and the main grocery store, all that stuff. We just live like 5 blocks from there. It takes like maybe 10 minutes to walk down there. This is
wow.
in town. This isn't like out in the woods or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of scary when she
Right.
said that.
No,
Told me that story.
I had a story the other day that I was trying to get, and I don't know exactly why this person is kind of reluctant to share, but this lady, one of the biggest fans that I've had for a long time for the Dogman stuff, has a friend who had a Dogman encounter in town, and this Dogman, she said, was wearing a hooded type robe, like a black robe thing, the cowled type, the monk or something type thing. And
Yeah,
she
yeah.
said this thing had a dog face that was poking out of the robe hood, and this thing actually walked into a store in town, and she
Oh,
didn't know who else to tell except for the person that is one of my fans, and because I guess she talks about the Dogman all the time, and so when this person had seen this, the only one she knew to go tell was the girl that watches the show on a regular basis, and I believe that because it's not the first time I've even heard that, so
yeah.
they
Oh,
so
wow.
there's sometimes they even have clothes on. It's quite fascinating, and who knows what to make of it. I think there's a
Yeah.
type that lives out in the woods that probably never has any kind of clothes or anything, but there seems to be another type that um, might somehow be almost a ritualistic involved in something else. And that would be speculating a whole lot, I know, but it's not. There's plenty of reports about dogmen wearing something, especially the hooded type robe, around certain areas where they might do paganism type things and other things like that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I believe your friend. I hope that um, helps her, that there's people that would believe what she said if she gets to hear this. And so let's move on to another one of your stories.
Okay. This next one is from my uncle. He also lives in town, but on the opposite side of town. And this is like July, August, kind of. It gets really super hot at that time. And what my uncle did is it was so hot that there was no breeze. They had all the windows open, and trying to get the breeze in, but there was nothing. It was just like sitting there, and then he was like, it gets too hot.
Right.
So what he did is he kind of made himself like a bed and opened up the front door, and he had a screen there, it's a screen door, but he just laid right there, trying to get some sort of cold air.
Right.
So anyway, and then next thing you know, he was laying there, and it was like a full night, a full moon, and he said that he heard his garbage can being messed with, and he thought, well, it's maybe the dog, the cat, the neighbors that had, and that there's raccoons and stuff like that, that too. And as he's laying there, he didn't, he just kind of let it go, and then next thing you know, he heard something like some sort of sound. He said that it's like they're talking or something. It's just a weird sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of shifted himself, and then he kind of looked up and towards, because he could see where the trash cans were. and he looked up there, and he saw three of those Dogman creatures getting into his garbage cans.
Wow.
And he said that they were talking among each other. Wow. And he says it's not even really, he can't even, he said he never heard it. They were just like talking. That's what he said, that they were talking among each other, and that's what was coming from. And that's what, kind of made him look. Otherwise, it would have been, like dumpster and then noise, and he would never saw it. They would just left. But it was the talking, the sound.
Right. Did he say that it was kind of like yipping, like little dogs, like yip, 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 kind of how like
kind of. He said that it wasn't like, if a dog could talk, maybe that's what it would be.
Right.
They'd be like, but it's not really. They weren't like yippee, but it was just like, it's just weird. It's kind of like creepy, weird. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just, that's what he was telling me. And then the thing about it is, he does have grandkids, and they, either they were there or they've been there or whatever. And, of course, when you have grandkids and they're down diapers, you change the diaper and you throw it away. Right? And then since it's so hot, you don't want to leave that in your house and smell up your whole house.
Right.
So what they did is before they went to bed, they threw that in the trash.
Right.
And then when he looked out there, and he could see him clear as day, because the moon was so bright, he could see them take out the diapers and scoop out the poop. This sounds gross, but they would scoop out the poop for some reason and collect that. And he was watching this whole thing the whole entire time. And it did have, the head of a dog, he said, but it wasn't as furry. He wasn't sure, because it has short hair. Right. And it had the little canine legs, and it had arms, and it had fingers, because it was digging there, opening up stuff, and you could see the hands and everything. So he's thinking it was skinwalkers. They're collecting stuff for their little, I'm not familiar with the skinwalker stuff, because I never was told about it.
Maybe a ritual type thing or something. Wow.
Yeah, some sort of potion or powders or whatever they do. I know they dig up graves. That's what I was told too, and get like bones and stuff like that they need.
Yeah.
And I was told that. But yeah, that was that. Anyway, that was his encounter. And then as soon as it was done, they just took off. They didn't see him. It wasn't focused on him, so he didn't see, because the screen, his door was wide open, and the screen's right there. And if they wanted to, they could just come in or, see him.
Right.
But yeah, he's lucky that they didn't see him.
Yeah. Man.
While he's laying there right there in the doorway.
Yeah, yeah. You I imagine when you see those, you probably want to be quiet and make sure that they don't focus on you. Did he say about how tall they were or anything, or?
He wasn't really sure, because most of the time that they were like kind of crouching down.
Right.
Because they were like digging in the bags and stuff, and they're digging in his cans.
Right.
And he said that he wasn't really sure. But when it took off, it kind of took off low too. It was like they were like bent over, and they just kind of walked off. So it didn't stand like straight up.
Right.
And that's what it did. It just went and took off.
So they take off kind of bent over a little bit.
Yeah, bent over. I don't know, because maybe it's because they got that, whatever they collected was still in their hands.
Right. Yeah.
So whatever it is.
That almost makes the story more legitimate sounding, because I've heard of them kind of being bent over, but not hands touching the ground. And when they run, they were running kind of bent at an angle, and they were kind of the back legs were almost pushing them, keeping them their hands from off the ground as they propel across. So that actually sounds more believable to add that, because you would think if someone made that up, they would say they walked off on two, standing up straight, what I mean, trying to make it seem more
yeah,
dog man like. So
yeah.
that's very interesting. Digging through the trash, and this was also kind of in the outskirts of
It was
town.
no, it was in town.
In town.
But it was on the opposite side of my where I lived.
Okay.
Yeah, my uncle and my aunt lived there for a long time.
So
and they still live in that same house.
So both of these encounters so far have been in town.
Yes, all these encounters are happen there.
Wow.
Where I grew up.
You must have some kind of something going on there with
maybe
the ritual type Skinwalker witchcraft something or another that has to do with the spiritual nature of the Dogman phenomenon. Maybe.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, there's some
kind of strange character people there too. So I wouldn't be surprised at all.
But even the regular type dogmen though have been seen in town before, like they venture into town, and one of the ways they get away with being in town is they'll drop down on all fours and run, and then that way someone will see them and think, man, that was a big dog, but it'll be a glimpse, and the person forgets about it or mentions it, and so it's actually a very good way of being able to get into town, even through town, is just to drop down on all fours and run. So you walk it off.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very interesting story, Linda. So, thank you for that one for sure. So what's the next one?
Okay, the next one happened to my father when he was young. He's probably maybe in his late 20s. Because I was still a baby, and he lived way out in the, out in the woods, still in that same area, and he had to go into town for some reason. So what he did is, it's so far away that he had to start really early in the morning, and then start walking. He didn't have a license. He didn't have a truck. And so he decided I'm just going to go walk into town, and left my mom and myself at home. And so what he did is he walked all day, and he was like almost into town. And on that same road is the city dump. And it's like maybe about 15 miles from town. And you take this, the road, and the dump's right there. And he was on the other side of the dump. So he knew he was pretty close. But by this time, it was like getting really dark. It was dark out there. He can barely see. So what he did is, next thing he heard, he came around like a bend, and next thing you know, he heard something like somebody was like horse hoofs, and he thought somebody was coming down the road on a horse.
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe and he looked around, he didn't see no truck or a horse trailer. So we thought, well, maybe I'll just ask the guy, to help me get into town, whoever's coming up. But then at the same time, he thought, you know what, this doesn't feel right for some reason. Why would some guy be out, riding horses, at night, But then you never know, things do happen. Right. And so what he did is he went down on that road, he went kind of like down on the incline just a little bit, and he saw this tree, and he said that he was going to climb up it and just sit there and watch to see if somebody comes. So he went up there, and he got to, the same level as where the road was, maybe a little higher. He was sitting in the tree. And then, anyway, he's listening, and then next thing you know, this thing comes around. It was a huge dog. And then it was coming around, and you hear this click, like a horse trotting.
Right.
And he's looking at it, and he's, well, maybe that's the dog, and the owner's going to come around the corner on a horse.
Right.
And he's waiting, and nothing came as far as the horse. But then it stopped right there, right in front of where the tree was, because it's literally like a big turn, like you're turning the corner right there.
Right.
And he was sitting there in the tree, and then it stopped. And when the dog stopped, the clucking of the hoofs stopped also. And it's like, this is weird. That's, because my dad's trying to think. But he said that when he saw that, it was a dog. It was a huge dog, but it was a dog. And that's what he explained it. And then it looked around, and it had his nose in the air smelling. And it's like, and I guess he smelled something, but he wasn't sure where it's coming from.
Right.
The dog. And then the next thing you know, it started walking. It turned, and then it walked down that road, towards town. And the next thing you know, you hear this little horse hoof going, just
Right.
down the road. And he just kind of like freaked out, and that scared him to death. He stayed in that tree until the next morning. He did not move. He heard something. He just like jumped, and he said he didn't get off that tree until the next morning was bright, and then he walked into town.
Wow.
So that's his encounter, and I don't understand the horse hoof sound.
Well, maybe it was the dog. If it was really big, maybe the pads on the bottom of the feet was hard, from calloused. So it sounded like hooves, or the nails, the claws might have been clacking, as a...
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe it was making a sound to sound like a horse, They can mimic sounds, so who knows?
Oh, yeah.
But that's very interesting. And boy, I bet he was really scared when it stopped in front of that tree and was sniffing around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was worried. Trust me, he said that he was worried.
Yeah, please don't look over here in this tree, My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so staying in a tree till morning, that was probably the best solution for the whole deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. He said I stayed in that tree until next morning. I didn't want to run into it. I don't want it following me. I just sat right there until the light, that sun come up.
Right. Did he give any extra description of what it looked like?
No, he just said it was like a huge dog, bigger than normal. It wasn't like a full moon, so he wasn't, he couldn't get a good look at it.
And it was
all he said it was
just
fours? Huge dog, huh?
And it was walking on all fours the whole time?
Yes, it was walking the whole time on all fours, sounding like a horse.
But he thought it was way too big to be a dog.
Yeah.
Just like a regular
He said
dog.
It was a huge dog, like maybe it's a crossbreed or something like that. He said, my dad said it was a huge dog.
Right. So, big enough, like, what did he say? It was just bigger than any known dog, like almost horse size? Or?
Yeah. I grew up with dogs. He always has dogs.
Right.
But usually they're like the size of, like the sheep dogs.
Yeah.
Just kind of that medium size. And that's what he usually has. But he has seen those big dogs, the Rottweilers and, the bigger breed and stuff. He said it was bigger than that.
Wow.
And we have one, I befriended one from when I used to go high school there, just down the street, and I used to see him. He'd be barking, but he got used to me. So anyway, and then I go up there and I pet him and stuff. And he'd get all excited when I'm coming up, to and from school.
Right.
And then he said that, and then he told me, he said he was comparing it. He said, that dog you see all the time? I said, yeah. And I said, it was bigger than that. It was huge. It's like it inbreeded with something, and it was huge. And that's all that he could say.
Wow.
And then he just said that it was just weird how it sounded like horse hoofs walking down the road.
Huh. That's very.
But anyway, it was just, he was creeped out by that.
I bet. So, all right. You said you had one story that was super creepy. Have you told that one yet?
Yeah. No, that will be my next story.
All right.
This one happened to my uncle, which is my dad's older brother.
Okay.
And he was hanging out in town, and you want to hurry, you know, like the natives, they want to be hurry whatever they do and get back and lock and key inside their house,
Right.
because they strongly believe that there's something out there, and like skinwalkers and things like that, and you have to be indoors. But anyway, my uncle stayed in town, but didn't have a ride back. So he said, "Well, I'm just going to brave it and just go home." And it was a moon was lighting up that he could see the road, because there's no street lights and anything like that, or as you head out of town.
Right.
And so what he did is, so anyway, he said he's just going to go ahead and go home, and just go ahead and just walk it home. There's this road. This is the same road where you go to the city dump, and it's a long road. And what you do is, when you turn on this road to the left, and then you look at it, it looks like it's just a road that goes straight down. And when it gets down to the bottom, it quickly turns up, and on the other side, and then you get on that side, and then you have to cross. Then you make a left, and then you walk a few yards, and then you're over there to the reservation. And that's where my uncle lived. And so what he did, he's coming down, he's, thinking nothing of it, and you can still see, making sure that no cars hit him and stuff like that. And as he goes down to the point where it hits the bottom and it quickly turns up, he saw something in the bush to the right of him. And he looked in there, and he said, "I saw, looks like eyes, maybe a pair of eyes." He wasn't sure he couldn't see anything of that because it was so dark. And he just saw these two red eyes, and he thought, "What in the world is that?" But then he kept walking and walking, and as he was getting down to the point where it turns up, that thing managed to crawl out of that little side of the road, and stood up and looked at him, and with a bright eye, and he said that it was a skinwalker. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't look at it, and then as far as like the natives believe that if you look at it, you're not supposed to look at it, because it kind of paralyzes you, put in a trance or something. Right. And so he didn't look. He quickly turned away, not looking at it. And what he did is, this is part that's really scary. I mean, to me, is it's like it escorted him all the way to his door. See, from that point when he met him, his house is like 100 and maybe 125 yards from that point when he met him, and that thing walked right beside him, because out of the corner of his eye, he could see the red eyes still looking, kind of, it glances at him every once in a while. And he did not say anything. He didn't do anything. He just kind of like, "I'm just going to get home." And he's kind of like, if that thing is still, he had to cross like a couple of fences. You know how when you crawl through the fence line, and he's going through the shortcut way. So he's going there. He crossed one fence. Then he walked a few yards, and then he crossed the other side of the fence. And then you go, and then it's straight to his house after that. And he said that thing just walked right beside him the whole entire time. He didn't know what to do. And then he said he was getting to his house, and he's going to get his keys out, and he didn't know what to do, because if that thing walks into his house, he didn't know what he was going to do. But so anyway, so he got his keys out, put it in the door, unlocked it, and then tried to turn his door handle. And the next thing you know, out of the corner of his eye, he saw this thing turn around and walked off. And it took like a couple of steps. And like the Navajo people, they said that you can talk to it in Navajo and it'll understand you. And because it's, a relative or somebody, And And so he didn't look at it, but then he asked him in Navajo, where is he going? And I thought, wow, that is crazy. I go, why did you ask him that? And she goes, I don't know. He just said, I just said it. And then it stopped, and then turned around and looked kind of at him again, and it didn't say anything, and then it just walked off. He just went ahead and just got in his house and closed it and locked the doors. Because that was creepy, because it walked him all the way from that point and escorted him all the way to his house. I don't know if it's about making sure he got home safe. I don't know. But that is crazy when you just like walk with something like that all the way to your house.
Yeah.
And that gave me that made my hair stand on end. I just like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. How close was it to him when they were walking?
They were walking like if somebody was walking right beside you.
Oh my goodness.
And he said that his shoulders was way up here past his head. And then he said he see the snout right there, but then he can see the eyes, the one side of his eye, of course, because he wasn't looking at him all the time,
Wow.
And he said that, and it just walked him all the way to the house. And it just, he says it was scary. It was dark in color too, also. And he said he didn't notice the legs. He was just too busy trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
He said he didn't notice.
So when you got someone walking beside you, when you kind of glance at them, you see basically the side of their face. He was glancing and seeing the shoulder and then basically the snout sticking down in his peripheral vision.
Yes.
Because it was taller. Yep. The shoulders was up at eye level, and so the snout was coming down into his field of view. Man, that is creepy when you think of it like that. He figured
it was probably about 7 feet tall. Because my uncle, he's like 5'11", 5'10",
right.
And he said this one just kind of like way up there. His shoulder was at eye level. He saw the shoulder, and he said it had hair on it and everything too. Right. It was weird with the fur or whatever it is. But it did have he said it was just like, the arm was just like a man's arm, he said. It kind of confused him. Like how we have our shoulders and then our biceps, and our forearm. He said on the side, he said that he saw all that. But he said he didn't look beyond that because he didn't want to deal with it. He's just trying to get home.
Yeah.
And that's what he saw. And that's creepy to me.
Yeah, that is creepy. My goodness. That would be hard to keep going. When you're scared.
I know. I don't know how he kept his cool without, fainting or taking off or whatever. But for some reason, it just, he could not, he just walked.
Right.
He said for some reason, something, I guess his inner spirit or whatever you call him, this man said, just calm and just walk.
Right.
And then that's what he did. He's kind of like, just calm and walk. Just don't look in his face or in his eyes. Don't look that, and you'll be okay. And that's what he did. But, and then they go, why'd you ask it where he's going? Like, who cares? Just as long as it's away from you, And he said, I don't know. Something just came out. I wanted to know where he was going.
You followed me out this whole time, and now you're walking off, so my goodness.
Yes,
so just let it keep going. That's interesting as heck, man. My goodness. Wow. Mm-hmm. These are all in the city, basically.
This is basically in the city. The one I just told you is just kind of going out of the city, just barely, because the reservation is just right there. So he's going from the city, and then there's no street lights right there.
Right.
And it's going towards the city dump. Everybody goes on that road to go, dump their stuff.
Right.
So it's a very common road, Yeah. It's not like, just a road nobody hardly goes on it. It's a common road.
Yeah, well, that's wow. I think these are really interesting to have suburb and city encounters. Totally all of them are Dogman in the city or suburb. That's really interesting for sure. Um, it puts a perspective on where you can actually have an encounter with something that looks like a Dogman. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so what other stories do you have?
Okay, the next two stories, my guess is probably Bigfoot. I
Okay.
never got a full description, but it just seems that's what I would figure it would be.
All right.
And okay, my first encounter is the same sister that saw the Dogman, and while she's laying there and it's coming up towards her.
Okay.
And she's this time she was older, and she was married, and she had 2 kids. And her husband, I know him, and he lives just not that far from that. And it's another small town. He lives there, and when they come down from Salt Lake City, where they live, they will come and see his parents, and they will come and see her parents before they go back up. And they do that all the time. So anyway, they went down and saw his parents, and then it got pretty late. But then they had to head back up to Salt Lake. But they thought, well, let's go, it's pretty late, but, let's go see if they're up, And so they went over to go to this is the same road that my uncle saw with that thing walking, and escorted him to his house. and they were going on that road, and then it turns left as you hit that bottom and up, and you go a little ways, and then it turns left in the reservation. Like I said, it's right there. And they're going down that road, and they passed the second cattle guard. And as they're going, and what this is, there's trees and stuff, but they're not. I don't call them trees because they look like bushes. They only stand for like a foot tall, maybe to about 4 feet tall. And so, and when you got as they're driving down this road, they could see their parents' house. And the sister is looking out, and he says, "What are those things jumping around out there?" And then her husband was like, he was too busy trying to focus on the road, and he didn't see anything right away. And he just happened to glance over, and he goes, "I don't know." So anyway, he got to the point where you're going to make a right turn onto their driveway, which is about, I would say, about 50 yards from the road. And as they're doing that, he looked to his left, and there's this huge thing standing there. And he said, "What is that?" And, because they only drove like maybe about 10, 15 foot into the driveway. And they looked, and they said, "I don't know." And it was coming closer, and they just, anyway, her husband freaked out. He just pulled back out and just left. So they're like peeling down this gravel road. And then my sister, she looked back, and she says, "It's following us." And he goes, "Really?" And so he tried to look, but he's so focused on, because the kids are there, and he didn't want to cause an accident. And there is cows there, and they do escape, out of the area, and they go on the road. So we had to be careful of that. And then on top of that, we have deer too. And so we got to be careful of that. So he's focusing on it, and my sister would just look back. Every once in a while, just look back. He said, "It's still coming. It's still coming." And they went down, and they made that right turn, that big dip that I was telling you about. They went down there, and they dipped at the bottom, and then they started going up on the other side towards town, and it was still following them. It says it's getting closer and closer. And so, anyway, there's a stop sign right at the top to make a right or a left. And he stopped, and he said, "I would have just ran that, stop sign if I saw something coming." But he stopped, and that thing was right behind it, and it lifted up the car.
What?
It lifted up way up. It lifted up. It got the back of the back of the car and lifted up the car.
Wow.
And it kept lifting and lifting. And then my sister was like holding on to the dashboard, because it was like, he's going to fall. She would fall forward. Her husband was on that side, and he was holding on the steering wheel, and he just kind of freaked out. I don't know what he was thinking. She said he just kind of froze for a second, and next thing you know, he hit the horn, and when it hit the horn, you hear the horn sound, and then it just dropped. And then she looked at him, and he just took off. And then she looked back, and it wasn't there. And I don't know. I don't know what that was. I'm guessing it's maybe the Bigfoot,
Right.
Because they do keep up with vehicles, when they're running, and they are pretty strong. So that's my guess. She doesn't know what it is because it was just a tall figure. And as far as those little things jumping around, my guess is maybe they're like baby Sasquatch running out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it didn't want them there, so they kind of made sure that they were gone.
Right. The alpha
and
male.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, maybe the alpha male came out to say, "Hey, you better move it along." Yeah, pick that car up.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a scary one for sure.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah.
And it could have been a Dogman. I mean, but you would think if there's Dogman in the area of any type, there would certainly be a Bigfoot for sure.
Yeah.
They're always in the areas.
I don't think it will. Yeah, they don't think it was they would think it would be Skinwalker, which they call it. I would say it's a Dogman. But anyway, they don't think it was that. It didn't have ears poking out, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. It just looked like a regular, just really beefy man.
Yeah.
I mean, bigger than usual.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the Bigfoot's definitely strong enough to pick the back of the car up. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like that is a bad street to be on.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It's really scary, that street. I've been on that street hundreds of times. Hundreds and hundreds. And I haven't had any encounter. But which is good because I don't know what would happen to me.
Right.
I probably wouldn't be here. I'll be probably at some institute somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you might not have stopped.
Traumatized. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next encounter.
Okay. The next encounter is a few people I knew that I grew up with that were in high school.
Okay.
And it was in the summertime, and it wasn't really on a full moon, but you can still see, But what they did is there's a what they call a part. They call it what do you call it? There's a park about 4 or 5 miles north of the town. So it's and then right next to it's a big park because they celebrate a lot of stuff there, everything in town. They go up there, and so you can imagine how big that is. And then right next to it, further back, is the golf course. And this golf course is not big, but it's big enough for a small town. And it's about like 100, I would say 100 yards from where they're sitting, from the fence line to where they're sitting, it's about 100 yards. But as far as the lengthwise, it's probably maybe 3 times that long. Because you know how golf courses, you have to, hit your ball and go have to have some distance to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was in the middle of the night. Well, I don't know, sure, but it was in the middle of the night. But there's a male and female, they've known of each other in high school and stuff. And they were just kind of catching up on, things and, just, BSing pretty much. And then they happened to, there's, park benches. And he parked his truck right there, so it was no biggie. And they were sitting on the table part, and they were looking out across the golf course. And then they saw something in the distance by the fence line. And they were looking at it, and they thought, there is bears there, but they don't come into town. They don't come in that far. They're more in the mountains. So they thought, that's too small for a bear anyway, from what they saw. And then they looked, maybe it's some stray dog or neighbor's dogs or, So they just kind of looked at it and then just kept talking. And then next thing you know, it looked like it was on, the inside fence, on from that side to the inside the golf course. And then it started moving, and it's like moving towards them. It's like it's probably a dog, but they were kind of worried about it because it might have rabies, if it's a stray or whatever. And they just kept looking at it. And as it started doing that, and they kind of whispered to each other, go, "Do you see what I see?" And they go, "Yeah." And it goes, "Let's just watch it. It's probably just some dog." That's what the guy said. And I said, "Okay." So we just kind of sat there and just still talking, still looking at it. And it started coming towards them because he said that somehow, he knew that it saw them sitting there on the park bench. So, and then as it was walking towards them, he said it looked like it started to grow from this way down to the ground, and as it started to kind of like rise as it was walking towards him. And it was this huge thing. He said it had a head, shoulders, everything, arms, legs, but they couldn't make out what it was, as far as like face and stuff. It didn't have the eye shine or anything like that. It didn't have the eye glowing or whatever. It was just walking towards them.
Wow.
And then when they saw that, and it's getting towards almost to the center of the golf course, and then the guy said, "You know what? I got my keys ready." And she says, "And on count of 3, we're going to run to the truck and we're going to get out of here." And then she says, "Okay." So he got his keys and he's all ready. And he says, and then he counted, and then 1, 2, 3, and they were out.
Yeah.
They ran to the truck, got in, and then started taking off. And you have to make a right turn, right there, right when you go to the fence, you have to make a right turn. And then anyway, she looked back to see if it was coming, like right up on them or, running after them. Yeah. And she looked back and she looked in the golf course and it wasn't there. It was just gone. Like it never happened.
Yeah.
And then that's what they told me. And then they said that we don't know what it is. And then they haven't been, I don't know if they've been back there or not. I haven't been seeing them or anything like that. But that's what they told me. And I believe them, even though I've grown up with them. They're not family members or anything like that, but I believe them because I know both of them.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So it was kind of silhouetted. They could see the outline of it because it wasn't lit so good, but it was just a big Bigfoot looking shape.
Yes. Mhm. He said it was just just like he said it looked just like us but bigger. It had the head on top, you could see that, and it had the outline of the shoulders, and you could see the arms. Right. And then of course the legs, as it was moving, you could see it kind of slightly moving, but it just kind of stood up as it, I guess, when it was coming towards them. And that freaked them out because it's so huge. And they just ran to the truck and they just took off.
Maybe it was coming like on all fours, because sometimes the Bigfoot will run on all fours sometimes, kind of like a gorilla does. And then they'll stand up as they're getting closer to whatever they're trying to scare off. And they'll puff up, try to look huge, to be intimidating like an animal would. Wow, that's that's interesting that they said, "Okay, I've got my keys and I'm going to count to 3 and it's time to go." Because I would have been yelling that from the truck. "I'm already in the truck, y'all. Come on."
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know why y'all still sitting there, but I'm fixing to leave. You better get in the truck. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, Linda, I appreciate you sharing these stories. Do you have anything else that you was going to share? Or?
Yeah, I have one more. It's my encounter. Okay. I don't know if I don't think it's a Bigfoot or a Dogman.
Well, go ahead.
But it is a weird. Excuse me.
Go ahead and share it. Yeah.
Okay. This happened to me when I was like 16, and it was around, I think, Thanksgiving. And what happened is we had like I was living in the foster home at this time, and that family had a big gathering. So everybody, All the relatives came, and there wasn't enough beds. So we volunteered ourselves to go sleep out in their small camper outside. And so anyway, and this camper is, I have to kind of just, explain how it looks. When you go through the door, right to the left of you is like the wardrobe closet area. And then you step forward, and then there's an angled door, which is, has the restrooms and the shower and the sink and all that stuff. And then right to the right of when you come in is the U-shaped dining area. And across from that is a small, like, kitchen area. And the way to the back is like, you can fold it out. It's like a couch, and you can fold that out into like a twin bed. And, so anyway, my sisters, I had two of them, at the time. They went outside already, went to bed, and I knew they did. So they'd be sleeping. And then anyway, later I came out, and I'm going to go sleep. So the bed was already made, so I didn't have to worry about that. So anyway, I was sleeping in the area where the dinette would be. And it folded down, I was sleeping there. And I lay there, and I was laying on my side towards the window. So my back was facing the kitchen area. My sisters, I don't know how they were sleeping. All I saw, because it was cold, their blankets all, up to their face, and I could just see the top of their heads and their hair, Mm-hmm. And so anyway, this door is a new door. The old door was like all messed up, so they had to replace it. And so what they did is they tried to get a closest model of that trailer and put a door that fits that. So that's what they did. But it still doesn't work very well because you have to slam it to, get it to click. And if you don't get it right, it just keeps opening. It just opens. So anyway, it took me like 5 times to get that door to close and lock, and I finally got it locked. So I lay down, and I was laying there. But anyway, for some reason, I just couldn't go to sleep right away. So I was just kind of laying there. And next thing I know, from the distance, like from the road, I can hear like somebody's walking on the gravel. Because the driveway is gravel. They just put it there, and it hasn't been there that long. And then next thing you know, I thought, somebody's walking up. And I thought, well, maybe it's some friends, because we've got a lot of people at the house. I don't know who they know, and I don't know who they talked to, and maybe they just come over to visit. But the thing is it was coming onto the side of where the door was to the trailer. And I still didn't think nothing about it. And, okay, I remember this whole thing happened within just a minute that I'm telling you, when I'm,
Right.
setting up here. I mean, it was like real quick, but it seems like forever.
Right.
But anyway, so when I walked up, and it got close to where the window was, and I looked up there, and I thought, oh, let me see who it is. Maybe I can tell by the silhouette of by the window, And I looked, and then I couldn't see anything. I said, oh, okay, maybe the light's not as strong on that side as it is on the other side, because that's where the back door is to the house. So I didn't worry about it. And then I thought, well, maybe it's my sister. No, because they're sleeping. Well, sometimes they sneak out to go see friends and boys and stuff. And they could have just put pillows there, And I thought, well, maybe that's them. Right. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to, if they come knocking on the door, I'm not going to answer it. I was going to make them sweat a little bit, because they're not supposed to do that. So anyway, when it came to the door, it didn't knock. It didn't tap on the window. It didn't call my name or nothing. All I know is I was laying there, and I thought, oh, maybe it's just, like I said, it was just like nothing. And next thing you know, it was inside the house, the trailer.
Oh, good.
And I said, how did that happen? And I said, the door is pain in the butt to close, and it's noisy,
right.
as hell. And it stood there for a second, like it was trying to maybe view out what the whole layout is,
right.
and trying to get the sense of where everybody was. And then I can hear it walk, and then it turned towards where I was sleeping. And like I said, I thought, my heart is starting to pound. I thought, this isn't weird. This is weird. And I thought, no, I got to be calm. I can't let it know I'm awake,
Right.
And I was laying there, and next thing you know, I felt a poke by my shoulder, on my left shoulder. and it poked me. Just enough to, poke and to see if I was awake or whatever. And that freaked me out. And I was like, what in the world is this? Then I can hear it walk towards where my sisters were sleeping. And then next thing you know, I heard a movement from one of them, and because I don't know whatever it is, was doing. And I said, if my sisters start screaming because they see something or start hurting, I was going to jump up and get it from the back. Still not knowing what it is, because I just can't. I was still trying to figure out how I got through the door. And as I was laying there, next thing you know, a car was coming up the driveway, which was my foster sister. The foster parents I lived with, their oldest daughter. She was married, and anyway, her and her husband, they live in town also. Anyway, they came in and they parked the car. Anyway, they was driving up, and the next thing you know, I guess it kind of like, what do I do? And I heard it shuffling a little bit, and then it just went like into the bathroom area. I thought, it didn't go out the door. It didn't go out in the window. It didn't, anything. And I thought, what in the world was that? I have no idea what that was. And anyway, I knew it was my sister, my foster sister, because when they got out of the door, the car, I could hear her talking and her husband, and I knew it was them. Anyway, they went inside the house, and I guess they visit just a little bit because some of the family members that they haven't seen, they want to make sure they have, and they can visit them and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, the next day was like Thanksgiving, and then everybody's going to see everybody anyway.
Yeah. So
anyway, and I don't know, but they didn't stay very long. They got back in the car, and then they started taking off. Then I heard my foster father. I can hear him step up, walk out of the trailer where the door was, and then he knocked on the door, and he yelled at me. He said, "Linda." And I said, "Yeah." And I go, "Okay," because I can answer because it was, him. Uh-huh. And I got up, unlocked the door, and I looked at him, and I said, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Is everybody asleep?" And I said, "Yeah, everybody's asleep." And I didn't say anything to him because I don't know if he'll believe me or not.
Yeah.
But he says, "Yeah." And then he said, "Well, we're going to get up at this time. Family's going to do this, the whole, like an agenda thing, we're going to do this and this, And I said, "Okay, that's fine. We'll be up and we'll be ready." And he said, "Okay." So anyway, I closed the door. This time it only took me 2 times. The other time it took me like 5 times. And then when I did that, and I was like, I looked towards the where the bathroom was, and I thought, the door was open. So I thought, where would this thing be? I looked in there, looked in the shower area, and looked under the sink, and I looked behind the toilet, and I said, why would I be looking behind the toilet and under the sink? Because whatever this thing is, it felt like it was a regular, like human size, adult size.
Right.
It wasn't like some small thing, And I was like trying to figure it out. And anyway, and I just went to sleep, still under, kind of nervous and stuff like that. But and that's what I have an issue with is I don't know what this thing was.
Right.
And that's why I was thinking it was maybe some sort of supernatural because it did walk and I hear it walk and it did touch me when it poked me on my shoulder, on my back, trying to see if I was awake. You know how people do that? They just kind of push you if you're awake and stuff. Right. And it did that. And then I did hear my sisters move when it went there. I don't know what he did. Maybe he did just kind of like poke down them too, and they just happened to respond and move, Right. But then I heard it too inside the trailer.
So walking around. That they were already in bed.
Yes, they were already in bed.
Okay.
I know now. Yeah.
And when this thing didn't open the door, it just came in through basically, and
yes,
and was able to leave. Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like a shadow man kind of thing, or some kind of
really
supernatural entity kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's probably some sort of supernatural thing, and that's why I was like, oh, I don't know. I've talked to people about it, and they said they don't know what it is. They just kind of, because mostly I talked to my family, and they wrote it off as maybe it's just a skinwalker.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, it's only speculating, but it's some type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
supernatural something to be able to come through the without opening the door, huh? But
yeah,
wow, that's very scary kind
yeah.
of stuff for sure, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You never forget those kind of experiences. That's for sure.
No, no, no. This is the one I had. Is just like it just happened yesterday. I still remember it,
Hmm.
and I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around the whole incident about
So
whatever it
yeah,
is coming through the window, through the door without opening it and closing it because it is a loud door, and you
yeah,
can hear it when people
right,
come through. And I heard it shuffling around, walking around, and then all of a sudden when the car turned and the headlights you saw, and it just kind of like it was, like it was startled, like,
yeah,
what do I do? And it just shuffled and just went, like it disappeared into the bathroom.
yeah,
And even the next morning when I got up, I looked in the bathroom. I said, where would that go?
yeah. So the fact that the lights hit it and it startled it meant that it wasn't supposed
Yeah,
to be there. Yeah.
yeah,
When you have encounters like that, that makes it easier when someone tells you their encounter, when they tell you this was very
hmm
strange, this happened to me, and they are trying their best to explain what happened, that it was not a normal thing, and people know if something's normal, you know what I'm saying,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Mhm,
so when people convey their story to us the best they know how, and they're telling you this was not a normal situation. This was not a bear. This was not a dog. This was not, this was not a human. I believe it. I just believe it. And there
mhm,
could be some cases where someone's mistaken, but you had too many things about your story. That door was too loud. When the lights came, it startled it. Your sisters were
mhm.
already in bed, so it eliminates all the possibilities of it being something else. Well, Linda, I really thank you for sharing your story. We're a little over an hour now, and I think that is there anything that you want to say to the audience before we go?
Not really, not at this time. But I just kind of like maybe somebody would help me about this counter I had. Maybe somebody
Okay.
will help me find out that out and
Yeah.
explain that away. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just kind of I'm still thinking about it and wondering what it was.
Yeah, and people will take their best guess at it, and but it sounds like something supernatural, and but everyone out there listening in YouTube land, if you want to give your thoughts on what it is, please leave a comment for Linda, and make sure the comments are nice, and keep your manners, because if people lose their manners, I promise you I will delete it out and I will filter it out. We want to be respectful to people, and thank you, Linda, for sharing these stories. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the stories.
You're welcome, and you email me anytime you want to, and I guess that if I come up with any thoughts on what this might have been, that I'm not thinking of right now, I'll certainly email you again. But you're welcome to communicate anytime you want with me, if you want to
Okay.
talk about
All
something.
right. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
If something happens and you need to talk, just shoot me an email, and I'll give you a ring back, and I appreciate you sharing. And everyone out
All
there in
right.
YouTube land, I appreciate you listening. Also, if anyone out there has a story that you want to share, you can contact me at bruntonson@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. God bless, and bye bye.